Good morning from WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant, and we welcome you to Kentucky Newsmakers. Later, there's a shortage of airline pilots and now a shortage of flight instructors to teach people to fly. We'll hear from the leaders of the aviation program at Eastern Kentucky University. That's a little later this morning. But first, Fayette County School Superintendent Dr. Manny Caulk is here. Dr. Caulk has proposed a comprehensive school safety plan for Lexington that includes additional security personnel, more counselors, more screening equipment, and enhanced procedures. The price tag tops $13 million, and the school board has voted this last week to pass an increase in the local property tax to fund it. We'll talk about the security and the possibility that this tax could end up on the ballot in a special election. And with the start of the school year fast approaching, we'll also ask the superintendent what else is happening as students get ready to return to their desks. Superintendent Caulk joining us, and we thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for having me. As I said, I am a huge supporter of yours, a fan of the show, and it's an honor to be here, and thank you for having me.
It's nice of you to say. Thank you very much. We have seen high-profile shootings across the country. We had a school shooting in Kentucky in Marshall County earlier this year. We've had incidents in Lexington. Is that what prompted you to gather the information that ultimately led to this proposal?
It is, Bill. You know, as we look back to 1999 and the tragedy in Colorado, Columbine specifically, since that time to the present, there's been 425 students and educators who have been harmed by gun violence in our schools, either injured or loss of life. And from January of this year through May, over 100 children and educators have been harmed and injured through gunfire in our schools or killed. And that first tragedy started in January in Marshall County, and we still grieve with them. We pray that that community continues to heal. And then February 14th, a tragedy in Broward County, Florida, Parkland. And we grieve, and our thoughts and prayers go out to that community as well. And it was those two incidents that made us as a community, certainly me as a servant leader in our community, begin to think and ask myself, as we all did, could that happen here? And sadly enough, that question was answered for us when a student used our anonymous tip line, which is a tip line that we have in place to identify threats. And part of that, see something, say something. And when that student called that tip line and said that a classmate had ideations of engaging in a mass shooting, but also not just the intent, but the means to do it. That information was taken from our administrator, given to our law enforcement, shared with Metro. We're grateful for that partnership. They went to the home of the child, talked to the parent, and were able to, with the parent's permission, confiscate an assault rifle, AR-15, 500 rounds of ammunition. Think about that.
Do you consider that a close call?
I do. I do. And whether or not that can happen here, that question was answered for our community. And as a result, you know, that student right here in Fayette County wanting to engage in a mass school shooting, followed by a student who on March 1st brought a handgun onto the campus of Henry Clay High School, followed by a student in March in one of our high schools, Frederick Douglass to be specific, had a gun on his person, reaches into his pocket, inadvertently shoots himself in the classroom. Yeah. You think about the trauma and fear of those students in the classroom and that teacher. So the question of whether it could happen here has been answered for our community time and time again.
So you wanted then to get answers as to how to react to this, and what you did, as we understand, these are not your ideas. This comprehensive plan. You put together a committee and they looked into this and made these recommendations.
That's correct. What we did March 1st, we pulled together actually prior to, but the first meeting was on March 1st. 28 of our community members, stakeholders, those invested, representing students, most importantly, families, urban county government, first responders, business community, faith-based community, teachers, school leaders, district personnel, as well as individuals that represented nonprofit sector, broad spectrum, representing our community, gave of their time. And I want to commend our District Safety Advisory Council members. The chair of that council was our chief law enforcement officer, Chief Schaefer. They met every week from March 1st to March 29th, hearing from national, state, local experts on such topics as school safety, social media, juvenile justice, and mental health, as well as a student panel, and came forward with those recommendations.
What are the basic elements of these recommendations?
It's a 10-point comprehensive safety investment plan that includes adding additional law enforcement officers in every school. We're grateful in Fayette County. We had our own law enforcement division going on 47 years to add more mental health professionals to our schools. National best practice is 1 to 250, one mental health professional for every 250 students. We're at 1 to 500. This would immediately help us move to a 1 to 300 with our plan to go to 1 to 250. We have some schools that, elementary schools, for example, that have one counselor for 700 children. There's no way that you can meet the needs of our students. So it's being proactive. These are all proactive measures. Also looking at exterior and interior upgrades. For example, we have 24 schools that do not have secure vestibules. We have 14 schools that don't have a camera system. No way to know what's going on. Okay, we have doors that can, in Lafayette High School, for example, 70 doors. You don't know when one of those doors are compromised. And as a former high school principal, I know our students, whether they're going over to, at my high school, they were going to McDonald's, right? And they would leave the doors propped open. But now that creates a security risk, not just for the children, but for every adult in that building. So we want to arm those doors with an emergency alarm that will let us know just in time when those doors are compromised.
Mr. Superintendent, are all of these pieces necessary for this plan to work? You know, obviously there are the physical barriers you're talking about, the additional security personnel that you're talking about, the counseling piece. You see all of this as very important, as comprehensive and a sort of a house of cards. Is that how I'm to take it? If something's left out, there's a hole in the plan.
That's correct. You know, this is not a menu of options. This is a comprehensive safety investment plan to address the changing times. There's one thing that's clear, and I'm really blessed to be a part of our community, that as times have changed, and I just shared with you from January through May, over 100 children and educators were killed or injured in our nation's schools. Our response, this comprehensive safety investment plan, is to hold firm to our value, and that is to make sure that our children are safe.
To get there, this is the price tag tops $13 million. You have passed, the school board has passed a nickel tax on $100 valued property. For the average Fayette County homeowner, it's about $88 or so. It will be obviously more for some and less for others. Do you anticipate that this will now be taken to the ballot and potentially there will be a special election about this tax?
I do not. I think our community, as we shared during our presentation at the public hearing, became more informed and recognized that even in these changing times, we have our value remain constant of making sure that our children are safe. It was interesting. We had one of the first speakers, or actually the second speaker at the public hearing, a gentleman by the name of Rudy. As I came into the conference room for the public hearing, I noticed the gentleman sitting there, what I believe to be a hat with the Marines, indicating that he possibly may be a veteran, right? And the gentleman comes to the microphone and introduces himself and makes his comment. Again, his name is Rudy. And Rudy said, you know, I was against this investment until I heard the presentation. And he said, I'm for it. And I think there's many more community members like Rudy who, once they start to become more engaged and learn about the plan and look and see that this is comprehensive, that this is not only hardening our schools in terms of the exterior and making it safe, but also taking care of our children in school by being proactive with the additional measures and mental health professionals we're adding. And with Rudy, I believe to be a veteran, understands the ultimate sacrifice to keep our children, to keep our country safe, and certainly recognizes the community must make this investment to keep our children safe. Are
you prepared to wage a campaign if that becomes necessary?
Yes, if that becomes necessary, certainly that'll be part of the process, and that would unfold. But again, I think there's, you know, many more of our community members who, once they begin to learn more about this comprehensive safety investment plan, are going to be overwhelmingly supportive.
Well, with Superintendent Manny Caulk of the Fayette County Public School System, we have some more questions for him about back to school and some other things. And then later, EKU's Department of Aviation talks about a shortage of pilots. It's coming up next. Welcome back to WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. We are visiting with Dr. Manny Caulk, who's superintendent of the Fayette County Public School System and who this week proposed a comprehensive security plan for Fayette County schools that tops $13 million. It requires a new tax, and that at least a tax increase, and we've talked a little bit about that. If people want to know more and how you arrived at your conclusions, they want to know more about this plan, they can find that on the school's website?
On the school website, they can also look at our budget process that unfolded in May and how we use all of our resources, right, to make sure that our children have a high quality education. So if you look back, there were three real points of advocacy this past legislative session. One was to make sure public education was fully funded. We asked for increased investment in school safety and security and increased funding for mental health.
Do you see this potentially as a model for the nation, this security plan?
I do. And if you look at what other states and districts are implementing and advocating for example, San Diego has it included in a package that's going to go to voters. There's a safety enhancement initiative that's part of that. You look at what Nevada just recently, their state formed a committee that's coming forward, 14 recommendations. All of those recommendations or initiatives are included in our comprehensive safety investment plan. So I think, you know, we've been a leader in this space in the Commonwealth, and will continue to lead the nation in making sure that we have the safest schools in America.
The Kentucky Department of Education, under its previous commissioner, issued a report that was very complimentary of your leadership earlier this year. Now there's been a change at the helm at KDE. Do you feel, as we know there is the stated goal of the KDE to take over the Jefferson County public school system, do you feel Fayette County is still in good standing with the state?
I do, and I commend our interim commissioner, Lewis. We share the same passion, same goal, which is to address the disparate outcomes for our children. That's based on their demography, and we've taken bold steps and actions, and will continue to do so in partnership with the Kentucky Department of Education. They've been a partner of us throughout my tenure, and look forward to them being a partner and as we move forward to address those ongoing and persistent disparities.
What other goals do you have as the new school year is approaching? Kids are getting their supplies together, and they're getting those vaccinations and checkups as they head back to school and so forth. Exciting time of the year, but very busy for school personnel.
Exciting, very busy. Obviously, safety is top of mind, and so that's important. But we are excited about the start of another school year in Fayette County, and with the opportunities that brings for all of our school leaders, our teachers, our staff, certainly our bus drivers, which are a child's first learning environment. for Fayette County Public Schools. And I say that we have a lot of back-to-school events that we're starting to ramp up and be able to invite our community to. The back-to-school event, partnership with the YMCA and others, is always a great event. But this year we're got a new partner, and the community will be hearing more about that. Cuts and Curls be coming as well. And so we're excited with all of our partners to make sure that our children have a great start to the school year. And I do want to say that we're also wrapping up some of our summer learning, and very proud of our students in partnership with the Y, and we did a Power Scholars program. So those students didn't have the same, summer vacation as others. They went to school another 20 days. We kept them busy, as well as some of our rising ninth graders out of Bryan Station High School. So we're excited to have the start of another great school year.
Well, you've told me that you were a prosecutor at one time, and you really see schools as an opportunity to get in there and change courses of lives.
I do, and I believe that deeply. This is about, some look at education as the great equalizer. I look at education as a pathway to a better life. And for many of our children, and the majority of our children in Fayette County, live in poverty. And I grew up in abject poverty, and I know the power of education to transform lives. And it's about social justice as well. And when you empower our young people, and let's, look at the data, one thing's for certain. Our children represent 100% of our future. And we know that they're going to be the next business leaders. They're going to be the next Bill Bryant, right? They're the next Manny, Caulk. And so we want to make sure that they're equipped to lead. And in Fayette County, we have a very clear mission, and that is to ensure that our children achieve at high levels and graduate prepared to excel in a global society.
Superintendent Caulk, thanks for coming. We appreciate it very much. All right,
thanks
for being here. And we hope you'll stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment with leaders from the EKU Aviation Department on the nationwide shortage of pilots and the fact that they're now having trouble finding people to train pilots. We'll be back in a moment. And we welcome you back to Kentucky Newsmakers on WKYT. More people than ever are flying, and there is a pilot shortage out there. In fact, it's estimated that 500,000 pilots will be needed over the next 20 years. Eastern Kentucky University's aviation program is striving to help meet that need by preparing tomorrow's pilots for the cockpit. But they're having an issue finding enough instructor pilots right now. Here to tell us about that, the challenges, and more about their one-of-its-kind program at Eastern is the aviation program coordinator, Dennis Sinnett. Thank you for coming in. Also, by the way, retired military Navy captain, and we appreciate your service to the country.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. EKU's aviation program has graduates in the airlines and in jobs in aviation all over the world. You've grown tremendously over the years. What sets the program apart?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me this morning, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about the program. I would argue what sets us apart is we're the only four-year institution in the state of Kentucky, first of all, first and foremost. And we pride ourselves, I would argue, is the other significant issue that sets us apart is we're producing quality pilots to feed the demand that you just alluded to.
And let's talk about that shortage situation.
Sure.
As more pilots retire, and as we say, as more people want to fly these days, and that certainly is growing, give us an idea of how tough that shordage is.
Yeah, well, first of all, the draw is, as you alluded to, is the enormous drain of pilots that are retiring from the major airlines. So that retirement process is creating a huge demand for pilots in the industry. So the domino effect or down order effect from that is, as pilots continue to get trained, they're going more rapidly going to fill those voids. So all the way down, the last order would be, hey, who is training these pilots? And even the instructors are getting the call up to go much quicker to those regional and to the major airlines. So it's more profitable, more beneficial for them, even at the instructor position, to get hired as quickly as they can.
What are you doing to try to identify potential pilot instructors?
Yeah, well, thank you for offering that. One of the things we're doing is trying to get out and broadcast and talk about the program again, via means sitting here is one of those options, trying to get word out that if there is someone available in the community that is close to Richmond, we would that has a CFI, a certified flight instructor, or any instructional certificates, that we would love to have them come and serve and help us with the shortage and teach some of our students. We are advertising. We're trying to get the word out by word of mouth, taking every opportunity. We've got job applications on our websites. We're trying to, within the industry, trying to get the word out that we need instructors. So pretty much any means possible, we're trying to get the word out that we need instructor pilots down at the program.
Let's talk a little bit about what you're interested in. What mindset are you looking for in instructor pilots? What qualifications do they need? What are you trying to identify?
Yeah, well, the basic is certified flight instructor. It's an FAA requirement that you have to have. And then there are increments above that. They have the certified flight instructor instrument, which is the next step above. Then there's multi-engine instructors. So there's a range of qualifications that we're interested in. And we're interested in either retired airline pilots, folks that are, again, my age or older, that have had a career and are now interested, live in the local area, and would continue to keep their hands dabbling in the aviation industry, have, again, those certificates. That would love to come down and fly for us, whether it's a full load of students or just onesie twosies. We need that type of expertise. We're looking for the retired airline pilots, the retired charter pilots that have those certificates that will allow us to use them in our instructional processes. Additionally, if there's a brand new, a young person that's graduated from a local university, not necessarily our program, that has a CFI certificate, we employ those as well. So there's, again, a wide range of expertise and experience levels that we would certainly enjoy having the opportunity to talk to.
Your program has grown tremendously, but you're telling me you could grow it more because the demand is there for
absolutely,
pilots.
Yes.
If you could fill these slots.
Yes, sir. Yeah, the long pole in our tent, the thing that's really holding us back right now to continuing to expand our program is having enough instructors. Again, we have plenty of incoming freshmen. Our program is the largest that it has been. And again, we've got plenty of aircraft, we've got the resources, the infrastructure, the ground structure necessary. What we need is flight instructors.
Tell us more about your program. You have more than 200 students enrolled?
Right, we're just at just over 200 for this incoming fall semester. Which is the largest that we've had, largest size of the program. We had just about 70 to 80 incoming freshmen this year that are going to be in the program, so we're continuing to grow.
Traditional and non-traditional students?
Absolutely, yes. A vast majority of them are traditional students coming in out of high school. We have a handful, about 20 to 30 veterans that are coming in, so that's a non-traditional. And then we even have, as we are talking to just prior to the start of the program, we have a number of folks that have, again, a full career. And are in their 40s and 50s, potentially retiring and saying, hey, I want to come back and do another degree and explore the possibilities of getting a private pilot's license and even moving on to becoming a professional pilot.
Let's speak to the potential students out there. If there are students dreaming of a career in aviation, what should they be doing to prepare in order to enter an aviation program?
Yeah, we have a lot of our specifics are on our websites, if there are interested folks or interested students that are interested in pursuing this as a career, we have a lot of information that's available on our website. Just put in EKU Aviation and it comes up. Again, lots of opportunities that are there. So there's a great resource.
EKU manages the Central Kentucky Regional Airport.
We do.
It's between Richmond and Berea. Yes. That's where your program is
Correct.
based?
Yeah, we're based out of there. It's about a 15-minute drive from the main campus in Richmond out to the airport. And that's where the hub of our operations are at Central Kentucky.
What is a day like there?
Well, we start, we're 20, it's funny you mentioned that, and thank you for asking. We start early in the morning, we're 24/7 operation. We used to, a number of years ago, sort of take it easy on the weekends, and our flight was pretty 9 to 5-ish. We have outgrown that pace. We start first light, 6 o'clock, especially in the summer. We're busy. It's a hub of activity from 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock is when we really start going. Well into the evening. We have night cross countries that we're trying to get conducted, so we have flights, students out flying midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, they're coming back. So
and probably
24/7.
Need to get that nighttime experience.
Absolutely,
right?
correct. That's
Yeah.
one of the requirements that we have in the program.
And
yes.
You also have a management track in
We
that
do,
as well.
right, and thank you again.
Yeah.
We're very proud of that as well. We also have a management track that is designed to take students with a 4-year degree and put them into airport management, airline management, the FAA, and it is extremely successful. We have we have one individual that's really pushing the program, one of our faculty, and is doing a marvelous job. We've got folks at Atlanta Hartsfield, out west, Lexington, Louisville. It's a great career for those that, hey, want to stick in the aviation, but not necessarily down the pilot path. But it's a wonderful and very highly regarded program.
All right, again, EKU, and go there and look for aviation,
yes, sir.
right? And
yeah,
you can
please.
find out more
Thank you.
information,
yeah.
and hopefully you get some instructor pilots
yes.
and keep growing
yeah,
the
we'd
program.
love to. Thank you.
We thank you very much for coming in today, Dennis Sinnett with EKU's aviation program. Thank you for joining us for this edition of WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. We'll see you bright and early this week on WKYT This Morning, and we hope you make it a good week ahead.